Okay, so happy Father's Day once more. It seems like you could have done the lecture for me, because honestly, there is no coincidence that such a topic in the opening reading was brought up today, and it matches the lecture in more ways that you can think. Actually, is basically you started, and I'm going to continue on what you said. All right, so we're going to start. Some of you probably saw, some of you may not have seen this video that we had on Facebook when we first announced the topic of today. So we're going to play.
Yeah.
It's connected to the sound.
Check the volume.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hello? Hey, Dad. Hey, how's it going? Kind of a rough time. So if you wouldn't talk. Yeah, what's going on? Well, PJ can throw fits lately left and right, and he's being really stubborn, and I just feel like I'm at a wall, and I don't know how to break from it. I don't even know what to do from here. Well, parenting, man, it's tough sometimes. You gotta keep your wits in. Have some depth in myself. Number done with you guys, and there's always a good time to affirm this and hold to it, but maybe this is the time to look at a little different than just discipline, kind of look at the whole process as an element of just like teaching. What do you mean by teaching? How's that different from discipline? That is, put your arm around them and just shift that mode, and then we sense that moment, and the Holy Spirit put in with us, so I can't really listen, that you can kind of ask them questions. You can start kind of taking the mind, see what's going on, and at the end of that, just again set those expectations, make sure you're cultivating what's great. Perhaps have a lot like what God does. The Lord does that with me quite a bit, and just kind of revisiting something, looking at something differently, giving me some time by myself. And I think I've learned that you can kind of sit and wait on things, take a few moments yourself, kind of go, eat, open up the Word, and God's got a lot of wisdom, man. It's got that throne of grace. Kind of see what He's saying to you. You'll get something different when I'm taking, and maybe you'll ask me the same thing, and kind of go to Him and find what I said. It seems like the Spirit's doing. Let me know what goes on.
Has he calmed down at all? Do you think you're getting anywhere with him?
I don't know, I just feel frustrated, I feel helpless, I feel overwhelmed, and I'm not sure how to deal with this right now. I call my dad.
Yeah, that makes sense, Dad. I'm going to take you prayer, and then I'll let you know what happens.
Yeah, just keep working. That'll give you some wisdom there. So, all right, my son, love you. God be with you, lad.
Love you too. Bye.
Yeah, no, yeah.
My dad always has the right thing to say. Every single time I go through something, he's always got just some practical wisdom. I really feel like he has it together as a father.
Oh, Lord God, man, you've been my helping time in need, Lord, and I'm just feeling helpless and overwhelmed, and just ask that whatever wisdom I share with Kobe, Lord God, at this time, he would find wisdom. So I just need your wisdom and help, Lord. Guide him. Thank you, Lord. You've been my rock in time of need. Be glorified in this situation. Amen.
So I don't know if you noticed or not, but the passage that opens the chapter is the same one of the video, right? So here it is. Jesus gave them this answer. Very truly, I tell you, the Son can do nothing by himself. He can do only what he sees his Father doing, because whatever the Father does, the Son also does. So we will return to this at the end of our lecture. Well, let's start by talking a little bit we always like to introduce, whether we're talking about Mother's Day or Father's Day, address the role of family. And we are, most of our material today comes from this book, Family Constellation, which is an outstanding book, and we have 2 copies here. So in this book, Joana de Angelis, the Spirit, tells us that the role of family is not always understood, especially nowadays. The family remains the primary school of the utmost importance for the personality's foundation and its effective development, to which the spirit acquires ultimate happiness. So, highlighting for us the importance of the family as a school. It is the first place, the first social environment where the spirit is going to start to develop the art of relating. And relating in ways that we often don't relate, even here at the center or our work, which is in a very intimate way, giving rise to the ability of seeing each other as who we truly are in essence, because we cannot wear or less so our masks at home. Here everybody looks pretty and is in their best behavior for most part. But at home, we are who we are. And so it becomes this very rich and powerful place where the spirits are going to get prepared to go out in society and relate, hopefully, in successful ways. So she continues bringing this expression that I like very much by saying that family is a permanent training camp, truly, where feelings and emotions are stirred, ultimately renewing and guiding them towards the positive creation of future projects. As a result, we do not live in the ideal family we wish for, growing up with noble and wise spirits surrounding us. Instead, we come to a group in which our own evolutionary needs are addressed. So here, Joana speaks to the fact that I know a lot of people here in the center and elsewhere with whom I have a very close affinity. And I sometimes imagine if those people were in my family, my blood family, but that would defeat the purpose of our biological family, because those who we have great affinity, we don't need anymore this training camp. We have already reached the level of affinity and love for them. So the ones who are born in our home are the ones who we have this unfinished business a lot of times from past lives. They are requiring some extra work. Once we graduate from this experience in the biological family, then those members become part of our permanent, which is our spiritual family. Very good. So this is an interesting topic because so the family where we are born in is not by choice. It's not a random event. A lot of times it was well thought and well planned. And so when we incarnate in a family, we have spiritual ties. And then as the incarnation process takes place, then we have other bonds that form. And so Alírio de Cerqueira Filho, in a book called The Relation, it's right here, right? Health of the Relation of Parents and Their Children, which is not translated yet. He talks about the fact that during conception, there is a coupling of the perispirit of the mother and of the child for the child's physical nourishment, but above all, spiritual nourishment. At the time of birth, the umbilical cord is severed, but the fluidic cord, this energy, this bond between the mother and the child will remain. It is maintained, the spiritual connection. He goes on to say that it is this bond of energy, this fluidic cord between the mother and the child, that when the child is sleeping, if the child turns and makes a noise, it kind of vibrates in the mother. The mother senses that. And that comes from the fact that the mother is motherhood, one of the characteristics of motherhood that differs from fatherhood is in our society, in our realm, material realm, the fact that the mother gives of her own body and her own nutrients for the child during pregnancy. How about the father? So are they completely left out? The answer is no. The fluidic cord also exists with the father, especially when he's actively present in the process of gestation. So the fathers who are involved, the fathers who are nourishing, who are caring, who are speaking to the fetus, who are following, who are vibrating, they will create the fluidic cord. Interestingly, is that with adoptive parents, what would that happen? Same thing. So as the parents start to think about the adoption and start, I remember Sherry and I, as soon as we knew that Tachi was coming, I think it was every day we would pray and we would talk to her mentally, and we would starting to prepare, starting to establish this connection. And so it can happen also with adoptive parents. So we're talking about different levels of connection between the spirit and the child who arrives. Okay, so the child is born, and then Joana de Angelis, going back to Joana, she says something interesting. She says the family constellation reminds us of the universe's perfection in its laws. Stars, planets, satellites, and asteroids. And she talks about how those planets, asteroids, and smaller stars will gravitate around the big star. And so she continues on by saying, parents are the largest star whose gravitational pull brings the children close as planets orbiting around them. So I was sitting here just before the beginning, and then Tachi comes to me with a letter from the Tooth Fairy, right? And she really, really believes that this is real. So what's the implications of that? The role of parents, mother and father are called to co-create and to cooperate with God. On Emmanuel's reading, Emmanuel uses the word cooperation. It was there. So this is used by Alírio de Cerqueira Filho, and he highlights that parents, a man, a woman, whichever way a child is conceived, one of the roles is co-creation, but you can co-create and not be attending to the duty of cooperation with God. Cooperation with God means that you understand that you actually, as a parent, have a mission. And as we are spirits in evolution, the parents become gods to their children, especially in the first years. They are this big star that attracts the children. The children will gravitate around them, and anything and everything that you tell them, it will be truth for them. And for them, you are God, at least in those first years of childhood. So there lies an important opportunity, as Henrique told us, to do our work cooperating with God, as Emmanuel said, which is to assist in the development of that spirit as that spirit prepares itself for a new journey, for a new life. So there lies the opportunity for us to give them the best gift, the best present, treasure that we can ever give to our children. Way, way, way beyond anything material that we can ever offer our children. But if we give them, if we guide them towards goodness and towards love and towards the understanding of the essence of life, we have given them everything that they need to succeed. So, moving on, in the gospel, the spirits remind us the spirit must be cultivated like a field. All future wealth depends on today's labor, and much more besides earthly goods, labor will bring glorious elevation. So going back to Alírio now, he says that it's up to the parents in their healthy coexistence, and Henrique mentioned the importance of having a loving home to offer our kids. So it's up to the parents in the healthy coexistence with their children to observe their moral imperfections, correcting these manifestations through dialogue, patience, and affection, without backing out from their firm decision or acquiescing to the negative behavior. And he will suggest that we should direct, we should orient, and we should suggest to our children in the process of education. Direct them early on towards goodness, towards love. Orient them. I mean, one of the roles of parents is these little cute, adorable angels. They are in our hands. They are spirits who have been traveling through many different lives. As cute as they look, they bring their share of difficulties, their share of limitations, their share of darkness, which will manifest little by little as they evolve. And as parents, it is our mission to identify those. We can only identify if we are present. We might be living in the same roof, and the parents might spend a lot of hours with their kids without ever noticing them. Or without really taking, because it takes time and it takes effort to educate a child truly, right? So a lot of times it's just easier to give them a tablet, to put them in front of the TV, and not to do the work that we need to do. So identifying and then educating the child. So the video speaks very beautifully about it. And in talking to Sherry, who also helps me a lot in thinking those issues, we were discussing about the difference between discipline and teaching. And a lot of times when our kids are in major crisis, we are trying to impose on them and tell them what's right and wrong. And in the video, the father is suggesting that we do differently. When the child is in crisis, that we embrace the child. That we acknowledge that that child is having some feelings. A lot of times we are telling them what to do and not to do, myself included, without taking a moment to understand what is it that they are feeling. So the father says, put your arm around your son. Help him to shift from one place to the other. Be curious, listen to what he has to say, what he's feeling. And that, my friends, is not that we are validating their behavior, but we are validating their feelings. And then let them take a time, let them reflect on what is going on, give them some references. And when they're ready to listen and really ready to learn, we're going to sit down with them and talk now about the behavior. But first, we acknowledge them, their feelings as human beings, which is very powerful in educating and raising kids who will have a stronger sense of self-esteem. Very good. So, but that was the introduction, just to bring up the role of family and the importance and the mission. I'm talking about parents in general. What is, and I'm asking you, the role of the father in the family structure? Traditionally, historically, what has been the role of fathers?
To provide.
Provide. The breadwinners, right? To provide. And is that what we see today?
No.
Somewhat. Not anymore, a mixture, right? Okay. So, Joana de Angelis, in this book, she says, changes in family structure will continue occurring according to the achievements of each era. But this does not mean that the family will lose its cornerstones, such as loyalty to the group, mutual support, protection as a result of loving feeling. So that's a beautiful, beautiful statement, which tells us something very important. We are under the law of progress. Society is progressing. We are progressing individually. The family structure is obviously progressing. Sometimes when we think about the regeneration era that's coming up, depending on what you look at, you say, we really, it's hard to imagine that we are entering a better phase for humanity. But there are areas in our society where we can see clear advancements, and the family structure, gender roles, gender functions have definitely progressed. And she says that no matter what shape or form families take, they will never disappear. So the formation of families can vary, and the functions in the family can vary, but the essence, what makes a family, will never change. And those are loyalty to the group, mutual support, and protection and love. So, fatherhood today. So this week, I've been thinking about this lecture the whole week, and every time I saw an article on the paper, I read. So these are 2 articles that I read this week. Dad's most important contributions go far beyond money, and involving fathering also benefits men's work. So I pulled a couple things that I thought were interesting about those articles. There is a 2013 report on fathers by the Pew Research Center, and it says, look at this, that just 41% of Americans say providing income for his children is one of a father's most important responsibility. A clear shift in the perception of what the role of the father is. Being a father in this era of changing family structure and converging gender roles means more than bringing home a paycheck or delivering punishment to a misbehaving child. Fathers are shifting from a traditional organization man into involved dads, as much caregivers as breadwinners. And it goes on. Here is from a book from these journalists that's cited in the article, How Work First, Culture Fails Dads, Families, and Business, and How We Can Fix It Together. He's a journalist. He used to work for CNN. And so he says, millions of working dads want more time at home to raise their kids, but society it's boxing us in. So it's interesting because more often than not, we are talking about the prejudice that women experience in society. But guess what? Men do too. And Sherry also often shares with me how a lot of the males that she sees in her practice speak about this prejudice because it is ingrained in even in us, in all of us sitting here, I would say. Even knowing what we know, we carry these roles, the gender, what men should do and not do. And if you see a man doing something that's not considered on our society standards as being a man thing, that man is a lot of times made fun of, diminished, and he feels unsafe to express sometimes a loving gesture towards someone that would be considered a feminine trait. So he speaks about the fact that he worked for CNN and adoptive parents had 10 weeks off to be with a newborn baby. Mothers, of course, had 10 weeks off. And if you had a baby through a surrogate, the parents had 10 weeks off, but dads had only something like 5 days, 7 days, something like that. Okay? So now CNN has extended the benefits to dads as well to 6 weeks. But it's something that society is still catching up as far as policies and as far as laws. It takes a while for these new ideas and these new trends to be incorporated and assimilated by the laws. So he talks about the prejudice. This is Sheryl Sandberg, CEO of Facebook, in her book Lean In. And she says, women need to be more assertive in their careers. But to do that, they need their husbands or partners to share in the caregiving. The research shows that especially the young generation of men do feel strongly that they should share the income that's brought to the home as well as the caregiving. Even though they recognize that, we still have like 30% of the men who actively do that. So the ideas are there, there's a movement, but the reality is a little behind, but it takes time. It's moving forward. I also think the new generations come up with a different view and experience of that. So the research shows that men that has actually taken time to be with their kids, and when they go back to their positions, a lot of times they're punished and there is a reduction in their salary. And men live under this pressure of always proving that they are machos, men for real, whatever that means, right? Whatever that means. And a lot of times they will stay in the office extra hours, not because they truly want, but because that's what is expected from them. And if they don't do that, they will be seen as less of a man. So here is a video that I want to share with you from a very well-known politician that will talk to you about the prejudices that he experienced in his personal life.
6 weeks after my election, my whole world was altered forever. While I was in Washington hiring staff, I got a phone call. My wife and 3 children were Christmas shopping. Tractor trailer broadside and killed my wife and killed my daughter. They weren't sure that my sons would live.
I kind of lose myself.
Because I had the incredible good fortune of an extended family, grounded in love and loyalty, imbued with a sense of obligation, part of me, I not only got help by focusing on my sons, I found my redemption. I can remember my mother, sweet lady, looking at me after we left the hospital and saying, "Joey, out of everything terrible that happens to you, something good will come if you look hard enough." She was right. The incredible bond I have with my children is a gift I'm not sure I would have had had I not been through what I went through. Who knows whether I would have been able to appreciate that moment in my life, that heady moment in my life, what my first obligation was. So I began to commute, never intending to stay in Washington, but this is God's truth. I was supposed to be sworn in with everyone else that year in 73, but I wouldn't go down. So Mansfield thought I'd changed my mind and not come. He sent up a Secretary of Senate to swear me in the hospital room with my children. And I began to commute thinking I was only going to stay a little while. 4 hours a day, every day, from Washington to Wilmington, which I've done for over 37 years. I did it because I wanted to be able to kiss them goodnight, kiss them in the morning, but the next day, no, Ozzy and Harry at breakfast. Are you doing anything? This kind of death. Because I came to realize that a child can hold an important thought, something they want to say to their mom and dad, maybe for 12, 24 hours, and then it's gone. When it's gone, it's gone. And it all adds up. But looking back on it, the truth be told, the real reason I went home every night was that I needed my children more than they needed me. Some at the time wrote and suggested that Biden can't be a serious national figure. If he was, he'd stay in Washington, attend the more important events. It's obvious he's not serious. He goes home after the last vote. I realized I didn't miss a thing. 6 weeks after my election.
Yeah, then the video starts again. So I don't know if you're able to follow everything, but he talks about the death of his wife and daughter and how people didn't know if his son would survive, right? and how his mother told him that, you know, out of something really tragic, if he looked hard, he would find something good. And then he talks about how he had to commute about 4 hours every day to go from Washington to his home, and that he wanted to do that because he wanted to kiss his children good night and good morning every day. And then how other colleagues of his gave him a hard time because they said that if he was really serious about his political life, that he would stay in Washington. So it kind of illustrates very well how we still think, and the articles will say, this is actually a speech by Joe Biden on Yale's 2015 graduation, worthwhile to listen. It's an outstanding speech, outstanding. He's absolutely great in his speech. I'm not doing a political campaign, I'm just saying that this speech was great and inspiring, and I really recommend everyone to see. But I think that he talks about the challenges, but he also talks about his love and the connection and the presence and the fact that you need to be there because that kid is going to hold that thought for 12 hours, for 24 hours, and you don't want to miss on that. You don't want to be so absent. So that means that if you were away, you pick up the phone and you call your child at the end of the day, how was your day? And if you're on the road, you talk to them. You want to know if they have anything important to say that you need to know so you can guide them. You can reassure them. You can be present for them. And that's basically what he did. And what he's talking about is about human love. And here, my friends, we're not talking about man and woman, father or mother. We're talking about the capacity of the human spirit. And in that sense, every single father in this room has the same capacity of love of every single mother, because we are not men and women. We are temporarily in one body or another. We are temporarily in the exercise of certain functions towards the ultimate goal of our existence, which is to learn to love one another unconditionally. So moving forward, the Gospel according to Spiritism tells us, love is the divine essence, and from the beginning to end you possess in the depths of your soul the flame of the sacred life. It's not talking about you men, you women, it's talking about us. The human spirit has this capacity. In the Gospel, we'll go on to say, even the persons that you seem to be the worst ones in this planet, they too love something, love someone, and have the capacity for love, because we come from love, and we are, in essence, love. Love to be expanded, love to be unfolded in our lives. And going back to the beginning sentence then, Jesus gave them this answer. Very truly I tell you, the Son can do nothing by himself. He can do only what he sees his Father doing, because whatever the Father does, the Son does. And what is it that the Father do? What is it? And we can think about the ways that God deals with us. First thing, God never judges us. We judge ourselves. God is embracing. The opposite of judgment. God is embracing. God accepts us where we are, for what we are, for who we are. God is a loving and consoling force in our lives. And God is this loving educator who in his care, in his love, sets up the rules of the universe, the laws of the universe, so that we can carefully and in fair and loving ways be guided back to him, to the path that will bring us happiness. And so we are able of love, and parents are able of the gift, the beauty of parenthood is, as parents and mothers and fathers, we are given the opportunity to practice perhaps the greatest type of love, because parents will do something that we don't often do for one another. Parents sacrifice. And sacrifice is the highest expression of love possible. And Sherry would, I'm talking, I hear her voice inside my mind. It's not true sacrifice, la la la. Yeah, it's not true sacrifice, but it is perceived as sacrifice to us. But this ability to give from a time that we don't have, you don't have the time, you have so little time for yourself, but still you give that little time that you have to your child. You don't have any health left, still you give that little drop of energy to your child. You need some things that you would like to have, but your child wants this, and that you give to your child what he or she needs. And that's the power that parents have, the opportunity have, with ultimate goal that we will expand that to all our relationships. Because we come as parents, so we have the gift of experience, this highest expression of love, so that this can translate and can permeate all our relationships. So I will finish with, I hope this video is a little louder. It's a beautiful video that talks about parents' love. Hang on to that. Let's see.
How easy it is for us to forget what it was like when we were once family. What times we shared.
C'est fin.
How easy it is for us to forget how to smile.
It's a beautiful video that reminds me of God, how God carries us, and that's the example that is set. Let's just act like God, act like the Father, and look for the Father for the references so we can learn how to love and be there for each other. Thank you very much.